Good afternoon and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation for October 25th, 2023. I'm Samantha Priest-Denson, the president of the BET. I use she, her pronouns. At this time, I will ask the clerk to call the roll so we may verify the presence of a quorum.
Board Member Fry is absent. Board Member Abene.
Present.
Board Member Jenkins. Board Member Koski is absent. Vice President Brandt.
Here.
President Priest-Denson.
Present.
There are 4 members present.
Let the record reflect that we do have a quorum, and we will now proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's legislative information management system, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. Welcome, board members. Welcome, staff. Board members, the agenda for today's meeting is before us. May I please have a motion to adopt the agenda? Is there a second? We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted. Moving to the acceptance of the minutes from the October 11, 2023 meeting, may I please have a motion to accept those minutes? Is there a second?
Second.
We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Item 4 on the agenda is the acceptance of public comment. I didn't see any through email, and we have no one signed up, so we will move on. But just as a reminder, our bylaws do allow for the public comment period limited to 10 minutes, and we don't have anyone today, so we will move on. Move on from that. I will also name before getting to our discussion item that there is a budget hearing happening after, so while I'm not suggesting we rush through our business, if we could be wrapped up so that there's time to reset the room, and for those that have to be in that budget hearing to reset their minds to be ready for that, I'm sure we would all greatly appreciate that. So we'll try to get through this in about an hour. And then before we actually get to the discussion, and I call up Ms. Jean from Abdo Financial Solutions, I do just want to ground us a little bit before our discussion. To remember that we decided collectively, which was a powerful moment, on how to move forward with staffing. We decided to move forward with having a contract, open bidding. We landed on Abdo. It is the job of the president to manage that contract, and I just want to name that that is new. It's not something that a previous BET president had to do. Today is to get a regular presentation that we should be receiving quarterly from Abdo anyways, but now that we're moving towards being a year on our contract, it's a good time to discuss where we're at, challenges, continuous improvement, identify needs, and I hope that we can land on a little bit of process that will actually make it easier for the president to manage the contract and be supported to do so. Greater transparency amongst all board members, and better collaboration and thought for the support that is needed between Abdo, our finance staff, naming that we know they're always stretched, but also they're down a little bit in staffing. So just want to be mindful of our processes and make sure that we don't have too much stress on any one person, and we can be as efficient and smooth as possible in our communicating and moving forward with our work. So I just wanted to ground us in that. I did also ask for our clerk, Ms. Brock, thank you, to provide us all with the contract so we have a copy in front of us in case there's questions about what we agreed to versus not. So you should have a copy. If you don't, am I the only one with one?
Pardon me, I will remedy that.
Okay, sorry, I was not as clear, but we'll get everybody a copy so that way we're all seeing the same thing. We may not have actually seen it, but we agreed to it. So just make sure that we all have it, so we'll have that. And with that being said, we will go ahead and welcome Jean. It's McGann. Did I say that correct?
You did.
Okay, to the podium from Abdo Financial Solutions to present to us just kind of a status update, and then we can get into some discussion and ask questions. Welcome, Jean, and thank you for being here today.
Good afternoon. Thank you. So today I'm going to go over, well, first off, I want to introduce a team of people that has been working on this particular project. Myself, I'm Jean McGann. I'm a partner at Abdo and president of Abdo Financial Solutions. We have Brenda David, who is a senior manager, and David Mueller, who is a senior associate. So the purpose for coming forward today is to give you an update on what we've been doing for the BET. And so at this point, we've been looking at a equity review of capital improvement programs. Right now, we've been looking back for 5 years and analyzing capital spend by each individual ward. Now, what I have moving forward is a lot of data, okay? And you have all of you have received the presentation, and so there are just some highlights I wanted to point out on the specific data itself. So when you look at household income, the prevalent points to point out is that wards 2, 5, and 6 have consistently had the lowest income, while Ward 4 has seen a significant increase in income figures, but it still remains a bit below average. And if there are questions as we move along, please don't hesitate to ask.
I will welcome Mayor Fry. Thank you for joining us today. And we just got started.
Our next set of graphics is looking at the average home value. Now, this particular piece of information, the data source is open data from the city. And so while we look at the average home value, the income in Ward 4 has significantly increased the average home value, but it's still one of the lowest. And the opposite can be said about Ward 2. The home values are slightly below average, and they also have one of the lowest incomes. As we move forward to the different types of property, again, this information did come from open data. Overall, wards 1 and 3 have the most commercial industrial property, and 3 and 6 have the highest percent of commercial industrial. Tax forfeiture was an interesting statistic as we break this down by ward. Our reference source on this was the Hennepin County Auditor's Office. And so most of the tax forfeitures happened within wards 4 and 5, and they've generally been identified as the lower income areas of the city as well. When we look at the overall capital audit itself, please note that in some cases there were some estimates that needed to be used. However, we have included all of our reference sources, so it's easy to go back to these sources to see where the numbers come from. For the overall total population, the American Community Survey 5-year estimate tables were used. The population was not available by the census tract. So when we're looking at the 2022 population, we use the overall change rate. So if you look at the population for each ward by year is within 2.5% of the overall total. So over on the right-hand side of this particular graphic, there are different asterisks where it does indicate either 1 asterisk or 2 asterisks identifying where the data actually came from. If we look at, this is just a different way to look at total population. It's just always interesting when we're looking at a 5-year period to see where the ebbs and flows have been within your overall total population. Another factor that we looked at was the population change rate. Again, we used the American Community Survey 5-year estimate tables. And then the Census Tract and American Community Survey 5-year estimate tables were not available, and that's why we have NA for 2022. So Ward 3 has seen the greatest increase, while Ward 5 has seen the greatest decrease based on the overall percentages of population itself. The next factor we looked at was the percent of population below poverty. And again, we utilized the same reference source as we did for the last 2 graphics. And as we look at that, the population correlates to some of the income metrics showing Ward 2, 5, and 6 as the areas with the lowest income. The Ward 3 poverty rate has dropped significantly over the past 5 years, and Ward 4 has shown the greatest improvement. The next factor we looked at was the unemployment rate. And the same reference sources were utilized there. For the unemployment rate, that correlates with the other income metrics when you're looking at Ward 2, 5, and 6 having the highest unemployment rate. When we go into the economic development factor of our overall capital audit, we connected with the Minneapolis Assessor's Office to take a look at overall new construction. So over the past 5 years, Ward 3 has seen the most construction value overall, including the most apartments as well as commercial industrial improvements. And Ward 13 has seen the most residential improvements. So the next area we looked at were capital projects completed by ward. And there are a few notes on this, and the finance department was kind enough to supply us a significant amount of information. And so the data that we're looking at, though, only identifies assets identified as infrastructure. So we wouldn't look at vehicles or anything like that. We're truly only looking at the infrastructure component. So if you look at from 2018 to 22, there's approximately 100 unallocated assets. Now, with an estimated value of $185 million, and that's because many times you have different projects that are included in a multitude of wards, and so it's going to be crossing those borders per se. And so that we were not able to completely, deconstruct that by ward, and so that's why we were not able to get that $185 million there. So overall, if you look at the various wards, it's a variety of dollars that were spent in each individual ward as it was all broke down. So this continues on as we go through the remainder of the wards. So just to kind of give you some, statistics as we did the analysis of this particular data, overall, the average age of a capital asset is about 165% of the estimated useful life. So it's, the age is well beyond essentially replacement. So Ward 6 has the highest average age versus life, and Ward 7 has the lowest. If you look at streets and bridges, on average, are the highest percentage over the useful life, which, as you know, it's difficult to try to keep up with, the various streets and bridges. With those types of infrastructure improvements, they're incredibly expensive, and so that's not uncommon that they would be over their estimated useful life. Approximately 95% of the assets that we were unable to locate, I had talked about that $185 million, that is really dealing with water and sewer infrastructure because it goes over a significant number of wards. And the rest of them were active prior to the year 2000, and some date back into the 1800s. And so until the GASB statement, GASB 34 came out, there was a different way of identifying assets within the city. And GASB, of course, is the Government Accounting Standards Board. So another question that we were asked is any missing data from the original metrics that we were looking at. So if we're looking at the overall funds, and so we aren't looking specifically at property tax levy funds or grants, donations, it's looking at overall spending. There was not any affordable housing information available by year. We had some information, but it wasn't. We had requested information by year, but we were not able to access that. And the job growth itself was not available by ward and census. You could get an overall job growth, but you could not get that broke down by individual ward. One of the other areas I was asked to address are any challenges that we ran across. And when we look at challenges, a lot of it was not having the information easily identified by ward. And so there was a lot of time spent going through and placing, the property addresses within the appropriate ward so we could truly be able to provide this information. So we did, because there was sometimes information wasn't available, we used other data resources. The American Community Survey, that was very, very beneficial. And the 22 figures are not yet available, and so there were in some cases we had to say it was not applicable because it's just not available at this point. And then talking about capital assets, because they're by address, and so we needed to place them within the individualized ward, which that's not unusual either. Many of the assets had vague descriptions. Because they were really based on the old reporting requirements, we didn't have to have the very specific descriptions as we are required to have at this point. The other challenge that we ran into is that everyone is so busy. So with all of the different agencies that we contacted, with the city, the county, other agencies, things of that nature, people are busy, and so it was sometimes tough to get a response, and so that, was a bit of a delay, and then that also, in the end, before we gave this presentation, we said, okay, we don't have that information, we're just going to point it out that we don't have it at this point. And then if you look at the population data, in checking with the city and the county, we were not able to access the actual population data by ward, and so that's why we utilized other resources like the American Community Survey. So as we go forward into our next steps, we're going to, provided that BET agrees with this, we'll start looking 5 years forward. So we've spent the resources to look 5 years back. And now we would like to look 5 years forward at the capital spending. In addition to that, there is a thought to develop some equity measures. The city has already developed measures, and so we do not want to duplicate that effort. We would want to absolutely collaborate with what measures the city has already developed and utilize that to apply against the data that we can provide. And then, as we move forward, BET needs to really decide what is equitable, what's not equitable. We're here to provide the information and to provide data. And so we would want BET to provide the direction on that. That is what I had for my presentation. I'm happy to address any questions that you may have.
I think what I'll do is we'll start with questions about the presentation, and then once we get through that, we can get more into the meat of talking about continuous improvement, connectivity, and get into that. But let's start with the questions about the presentation first, and then we can roll into that part if that feels good for everyone. And we'll start with Commissioner Abene, followed by Vice President Brandt.
Thank you, President Priest-Stinson. One comment would be, the ward boundaries are changing. Was that factored into this work? And so will they be translated to the new ward boundaries for the look forward?
Yes, we'll have to do that.
Okay.
Absolutely. So I will make a note of that we will need to change those ward boundaries for the 5-year look forward.
Okay. And then if you could go to the slide again with the 4 categories, that was in 2 pieces because it was so big. But the first piece, the first page, it had the categories. It was parks and bridges and I should also say thank you. This was very interesting.
This one?
No,
this is new.
there.
This one.
Okay, sewer and water. So on the sewer and water one, for example, you said that, that was some of the bulk funds in the note, but these were actual projects that you could pinpoint to a specific ward
that
are up in the table. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if did the parks provide data to you directly? Did you work directly with the park board, or was this through the city?
This was through information that was available through the city, through the parks.
Okay. I'll look at that. Okay, I think those are my questions right now. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Vice President Brandt.
I think my colleague just raised a point that I had not considered. this is all based on old ward boundaries, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And just as an overall observation, I think a fair amount of this data is sort of intuitive. For example, the reason Ward 3 leads every other ward in capital projects completed is we, as a city, just put up a new building, kitty corner from City Hall for city offices. And then I thought perhaps it also included, but I found it missing, the Third Avenue Bridge project, which I believe both ends of that bridge are in the third ward. If I just looked up on the map. I don't see anything for streets and bridges, if I'm reading correctly, starting with 2020, when the project started, going through 2022, the last year of analysis. And it would seem that there should be some data for the cost of that.
Has the project been completely finalized?
Mayor Fry seems to have a comment too, perhaps, maybe, and then we'll jump back to you, Jean.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Vice Chair, I don't believe the new city office building is in the third ward.
Okay.
I think it's either in the 7th or the 6th. They all come together right there, but I'm fairly confident it's not in the third. And I don't believe the bridge would fall under the capital projects that are completed by the ward, since it's a state asset. Yeah. But the third ward, every single year since I was in my first year as council members, has been by far the biggest ward of growth. And that's predominantly due to residential development and some commercial. I mean, we've got, there's practically a skyline now that is developing on the east side of the river that wasn't there before. And I think a number of those projects, both downtown and on the east side and in North Loop, have contributed to that.
I was going to highlight, as being the previous council member for the third ward, my previous council member in that ward. Thank you for sharing that. And also, I think it's important to point out too that the third ward does happen to be a very strong economic driver, not just for the city, but also even for the state, given our size and entertainment and other things too. So that's just some additional context. But Jean, please offer your comments, and then Vice President Brandt, continue.
I guess my question was, my question was actually already answered, because the bridge project would be asked of the state.
And then I wanted to ask as well about the finding for the fifth ward in the area of park construction park capital projects. As I read the chart, it was had the lowest, I'm sorry, it's not that, not the capital projects completed, it's the age versus life chart. I was surprised to see Ward 5 have the lowest ranking for parks, because my impression has been that the park board has done a conscious and commendable effort to address park needs first in areas of greater social needs, and by our other data, that would include the fifth ward. Anybody have any thoughts on why the fifth ward would be lagging in park spending?
Before we get to that, President Jenkins, would you have some comments to offer or background?
That our park board and, invest quite a bit in the ground rounds. And Ward 5 was so far behind in park deferred maintenance that even if they were directing all of their attention, it would still take quite a while to catch up to other parts of our city. I just left Pearl Park and realized that they have a daycare program at Pearl Park, which could really be a tremendous asset in the Fifth Ward, but it's not available to the extent that I know of. And maybe Commissioner Abini could talk a little bit more about that. But that's just my perception. But having heard many presentations from the park board, I feel like it's pretty accurate.
Commissioner Bennett?
Thank you, Chairperson. And yeah, no, I think we have Rec Plus programming all throughout the city, and we've targeted actually free childcare in certain parts of the city as well. I think this data, something we'll want to look at the results and just kind of do this to make sure that what the city reports is the same thing that Park Board will report, because, and I guess maybe it also depends on the type of funding. We may be receiving funding that the city never sees, and so it really depends on what we've calculated here. So I'll ask them to take a look at that. But our investment has been focused in wards 4, 5, 1. We've been really focusing. So, and actually, I'm glad this slide came back up, because during the presentation it was kind of quick. Could you please tell me what is the calculation to come up with this percentage? What's the denominator? And what's the denominator and what's the numerator?
You're looking at the, when the capital asset was put into place, and the age as to when it's typically replaced.
Okay. So the lifespan, essentially okay, versus age, actual age.
Vice President Brandt?
Just getting back to the park system and the grand rounds, I would point out that a good portion of the grand rounds in Ward 5 is outside of the city limits in Golden Valley. And I'm wondering how that would be handled. Is that sort of put off to the side as not identifiable with a particular ward?
I would have to look at the very specific project, but I can follow up on that for you.
Commissioner Bennett?
Sorry, and I want to make sure I'm accurate in what I'm saying here, but that's also a regional park. So regional park money comes from different sources. It comes through the Metropolitan Council, and we invest dollars into the regional system. So, I mean, ours is complicated, and I mean, the presentations we receive on our capital program in our neighborhood parks, and I think that's probably the thing to focus on in the data, are the neighborhood park amenities. They're very, very detailed. It's like the most complicated game of, I don't know, Dungeons and Dragons or something. So I think we'll want to look at this just to make sure you have the right set of data so that we can use this data for the intended purpose.
Exactly, and just as a further comment, what we may want to do for the parks component of this is to take information from parks and, combine it with the information from the city. And that way we're going to have a true picture as far as what's going on, because with, right now, we're looking at the funding sources from the city. And as you say, the parks have a tremendous amount of other types of funding sources that would be involved with this.
Are there any other presentation-specific things before we kind of move into the next arena, Mayor Fry?
Yeah, maybe I'm reading this wrong. These are capital assets that are presented regardless of which jurisdiction controls them and owns them?
These are capital assets based on the fixed asset records that the city finance staff provided to us.
Okay. I think yeah, understood. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We may call upon our lovely finance staff that is here as we move into this next part of the discussion, which would make sense. But I think I'll start off my comments on just a couple of things and talking about how things have been going, and just some things that I've identified within managing said contract. So a few things. One, I think that it's important to, based on how everything has been going with the work and management of the contract, and also in the spirit of transparency, I think agreeing on a work plan would be helpful. There are things that come up or may come up I think the elected members of the board sometimes will have more capacity, or not unlike any other elected official, may have priorities that they want to move. And that work needs to be seen, visible, agreed upon, and then work to be done to even get a projection for how much it might cost and to really build out a work plan that the president can hold ABDO accountable to and we can hold ourselves accountable to. And then that way, each quarter when we're doing these check-ins, it's not just, and not that they are random, but it's not random. It's based on the agreed upon work plan, and we're checking in on the work plan. That's a support for the president. It's a support for all of us, everybody included in the process. And so I would like for us to move to adopting that moving forward. Continuing with the quarterly updates. As I mentioned, kind of even getting an estimate for work along with the work plan so that we can look at the total amount of money that we have allotted specifically for the contract, and just to make sure that we're managing responsibly. And then we have these checkpoints where we can check in and say, based on this, when do we want this work to occur? And just have a really good plan that we're all in alignment with and agreed upon. I think it's also helpful, one thing that was noticeable for me was Lori is still with us from our city finance team, but Lori was present in our meetings that we would have with ABDO quarterly. And so having someone from the finance team at that meetings, I think, is critical and important to also be able to name challenges that they may be having, either in getting information, avoiding rework, where ABDO may be working on something that actually we already have. And so I think that's another continuous improvement thing that would be helpful. And then there's admin needs. In the brief time that we did have a staffer since stepping onto the board and taking over as president, there was administrative things that Tony would provide. If meetings were needed, kind of setting those up, having the meetings, sometimes even if I wasn't there, but with direction on what we want the outcomes for that meeting to be, whether it was gathering information or otherwise. And that's a little bit of a gap in a stretch that I've experienced, and just the amount of time that it takes to do that. I think the language in the contract does spell out some administrative things, so just having a more robust discussion around that. And also on the point of projections, in the contract, it does name compensation of the cost of the hourly rate for staff. So that's another just a good thing to be mindful of as the president, and for us all to, that depending on what the agreed upon work plan is, also asking which staff would be active in that. So then we can get a good idea of cost as well, because depending on who's working on things, as you can see, it's item 3 in the contract around compensation. Depending on who's doing work, that does change the cost of the service. So it's just something to be mindful of and just name up front within creating the work plan. Another thing to name too is around, it's not something that we have to do, but I think it's just a good practice. When we get invoices, obviously we need to pay them because the work has already happened, but it's not a bad idea just for everybody to see it. And if there's a question about the invoice or a suggestion about the work that's happening, we can address it because we meet monthly, for the most part, been meeting monthly with ABDO. So we can make those real-time adjustments and ask the questions in more real time about those invoices. Even though it's the job of the president to approve them, that doesn't mean that everyone else shouldn't have visibility to just see it and ask questions. So that's kind of my feedback on how things were going, and my kind of suggestion on some things that I think that we can do to keep the boat afloat, but make things go a little more smoothly and transparently. The last thing that I'll end on is that we didn't take a formal vote. I did check with the clerk's office to see if we maybe should have. When we talked about the capital audit, we raised any concerns. We talked about what made sense, what didn't. But we didn't have a work plan per se to talk about cost. So where we're at right now is For the most part, and I think you all know this, but when there's a contract and it goes over a particular period of time, you could think of it as one bucket. Even though we want to look at it year to year, you can think of the total amount as one bucket. But based on where we're at now and the cost of the work that's been done so far, if we were to break it down on a yearly basis, we're at the amount that we would want to be in, say, December. So this is a good time to do a work plan to talk about what has the finance team already done as far as this 5-year look forward, so that there's better collaboration and not a bunch of rework, get a work plan in place, and then just be able to manage the cost more effectively moving forward. We're not in trouble, the money's there, but this is the point where we're at. And so one question to ask specifically of the finance staff is just some directional support and feedback on where we're at now, what work is left to be done moving, and then the last invoice has already been paid. Where are we at now with cost? And then like any suggestion that we have about moving forward. But I think the work plan is the solve to keeping it all afloat and having just general awareness and transparency. And I appreciate y'all for your trust in managing the contract. That's kind of my outline, and it's further discussion, questions, comments. So for next steps, then, what I'm suggesting is I would work with, and I've had Vice President Brandt present, even though he doesn't have to, just for another set of eyes and to be present, as well as, it's not the point of today, but I'm speaking it out that my intention is not to be president again. So I also want to make sure that there's a very smooth transition for likely future President Brandt, that we have a process. So for next steps, we would both meet with Abdo. Let's get a suggested work plan together that also considers the potential cost that's moving forward to continue this work, identify other work that may be coming up as well, and then to be able to come back to this body with an actual work plan that we can discuss and agree upon, and then move forward in that way and continue in that cadence as I described. Any comments? We got some agreement, it sounds like? All right. Director Dye, would you, for that last piece that I talked about where we're at financially with the contract, is there any adjustments that we need to make as far as our budget? What does that look like, so we're all clear about what's happening next? The only cost at this point would be the monthly meetings we're going to continue to have for the rest of the year, the next quarterly update. But as far as moving forward with any more work on the project, pause on that, so we can get the work plan together, and then we'll come back for that. But just functionally on that piece of the funding for the contract, is there anything that we need to do at this point?
President Priestens and members of the board, the reason why I reached out to President Priestens on this contract is because of the large invoices that were coming through. And I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware of the work that's being done and the billing rate that was being applied. So that was the reason. The contract is not over budget. There is funding available through January. There is no adjustment that needs to be made at this point. So we're good there. I think for finance staff, it was unclear if the invoice was reasonable or not, because we weren't aware of what the work was that was happening. So I think going forward, once you do have a work plan, then finance staff can verify the billing amounts and make sure it's appropriate.
Fabulous, and thank you for that feedback. So yeah, the work plan sounds like a good plan. We will move forward with that, report back. Go back to my other notes here. That's all we had for today. I'd like to receive and file this presentation, Clerk Brock. Thank you for that presentation. Thank you, everyone, for being present. I think we have a great plan to move forward. So seeing no further discussion, again, ask the clerk to receive and file, and we have completed all business to come before us today. Without objection, we stand adjourned.